Hello and welcome to my YouTube channel, Happy Cells and Souls. My name is Julie Powers and I am a licensed Zumba instructor and I'm a partner with the Juice Plus company. My mission in life is to inspire healthy living around the world and to help people understand that life is better when they're dancing through it. But my expanded mission is to create better health at the cellular level and more joy at the cellular level. Because I believe that we get one body while we're here on earth and we're supposed to take care of it. And I also believe that we're meant to be happy and joyful while we're here and spread that to others. And so I really love the fact that in my life of almost 53 years, I have had the honor and privilege of getting to know some really amazing people along the way. And that is what this channel is all about, is having conversations with people that I may or may not share the same information with in terms of and beliefs of political, social, religious. It doesn't matter. I don't care because I want everybody to have an open mind so that we can all learn from each other, because it's really important to do that. And one of the people that I get to talk to is my guest today, Keith Ray Mackie. And Keith Ray is somebody that I met in college, way back when, at the University of Missouri, Columbia. And I think that we may have even met officially our freshman year, but then we became better friends later on. And your wife happens to be one of my very best friends ever. And so I know him really, really well, okay? Keith Ray is a licensed professional counselor. He is a college teacher. And I'm gonna just let you, Keith, explain a little bit about your background before we get into our topic today.
Okay, well, thanks, Julie, and I'm really happy to be joining you today. I am a person who works with children primarily and their families. I work in a psychiatric type of setting, and my daily work is really with children that are very troubled, emotionally, psychologically. The reality is my day-to-day work is working with kids that are suicidal or homicidal or very clinically depressed. And so that's the most of what I do in a general day.
Right, and I know that you have had like how many years now of working with this?
Got about 3 decades of working in child-centered type of work, you know, through a variety of different community mental health centers, hospitals, and outpatient practice and those types of things. Primarily now I work inpatient psychiatric care, and I own my own business, so I really work for myself, and that's kind of liberating.
So really, in a nutshell, what you do in your professional life is you try to help people, these young people, go from a very troubled place into a much happier place somehow. And there are many, many success stories that you've had along the way.
Right.
And so it's the mental health of our country is at risk right now. And so I just want to let you know how much we appreciate you working in that field and taking on such huge burden on your shoulders to help these young people, because we're getting more and more young people and younger people that are having these issues. And whether it's been something that they have in their own little bubble, or if it's outside, you know, forces sort of messing with them. And so thank you for that. But the reason that we are talking today is because you have this theory and this philosophy that's called Simple Dreams. And I would love for you to talk about that, because you have your own YouTube channel that you've started and you've been sharing stuff on Facebook about simple dreams. And I'd love for you to just tell us a little bit about this philosophy.
Well, simple dreams for me is it's really kind of more like a discovered path. I don't think I invented it, but through practice over the decades, one of the things I realized is for so many of the children I work with, they literally can tell me 5 different stories about how their life ends badly. You know, and I will be respecting all patient confidentiality of nobody would know any of these children I'm talking about. But I had a little girl the other day, and she's 16, and literally we were talking about our dreams and our goals. And she said, my dreams and goals don't matter. I'll either be dead or in prison by the time I'm 25. So this got me thinking about how challenging it is for people, adults and children, to conceptualize a dream and to approach when they're at the darkest parts of their life. And so then that started sort of generalizing to the idea that it's really difficult for people to see their dreams even from the middle sometimes, because they get so busy in their life, they don't think, they don't plan, they don't ask themselves, what else do I want in my life? And so that's where the sort of concept of simple dreams began to form for me. And I have this thing I do with kids sometimes when they can't tell a dream. I'll tell them a dream, and maybe I'll give you an example of that later, but I'll tell them a dream of their life. And it's really interesting because a lot of times the children will react and they'll say, no, Mr. Mackie, that's not my dream. Here's my dream.
So they do have their dream, they've just buried it. And you know what I have found, Keith, is that a lot of adults, most adults, have lost that ability to dream as well.
Right.
And so in order for adults to do that, sometimes they need someone else to share their dreams to get them sparked as well. So I think that's brilliant.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and that's one of the things where things converge, because I work for a really great guy, the CEO of the company that I work with. He also has this vision of how we deal with trauma. And you may hear the term trauma informed. A lot of things going on in society right now that are very traumatizing to just the average person, with the quarantines and the COVID and the racial difficulties in society right now. It's very traumatizing for people across the spectrum. And he had a vision and actually invited me in to start training employees. And that's when I kind of started to begin to shift my mind and think about, how does this also apply to adults? And that's maybe just recently when I really started this Simple Dreams idea and trying to talk about training adults who work with children to self-care, but also it's not my original thought, but as we take care of our employees, if we take care of our employees take care of our customers. And so as we can help people be kinder to themselves, to be more sensitive to their own desires and needs, they're actually going to be better at helping kids when they're in desperate situations.
Okay, so I'm glad you brought that up, because you know that that fits into what I do all the time, right? Because my whole, I preach this, is that we have to take care of ourselves. Because if we don't take care of ourselves, we cannot be there for the other people that we love in our highest capacity.
Right.
And so it is not selfish to take care of yourself.
No.
It is absolutely selfless to become selfish for a little while until you get yourself built up so that you have that full cup. And so I believe that it encompasses all things, nutrition and exercise and taking time to rest and relax and making sure you're hydrated and having those relationships with people and having your spiritual connection and having all of these things taken care of. But usually it's a balancing act, right? And so when you're talking about simple dreams, you may be talking with somebody whose dream is just to have a meal, or whose dream it is to have somebody to go home to who cares about that person.
Absolutely.
And so, we really have to think in big sections here, right?
Sure.
And so, you do talk about a lot of different things on your Simple Dreams YouTube channel, but I know that when we have family members who go through illnesses, or have passed, then that brings other parts of our lives into focus. Sometimes it takes these things before we recognize what we have. And before we went on camera here, we were talking about the fact that people look at their material possessions and comparing themselves and where they are and where they believe other people are in their material possessions, in order to decide whether or not they're happy. And
yeah.
So will you kind of go onto this?
Yeah. I think that sometimes people get very insensitive to their actual circumstances, and we certainly have a lot of people, and I deal with a lot of children that are really in neglectful or impoverished situations. But for adults, as we think about that, sometimes people can live their whole life feeling like the cup is empty, when in fact they have a cup in their hands. And what are they going to put in the cup? And by that, I mean, what are they going to do in their daily lives? So sometimes we need to realize the value of the things we already possess. And you'll hear it all the time. People will say, well, the house burned down, but everybody got out safely, so we're okay. And that's a real reality, especially, this past year has been hard for a lot of members of my family.
Mhm.
And we've had, situations we've been dealing with for a decade, with my oldest son who has some mental health challenges. And then within the past year, almost a year ago, it was July something, my brother called and told me that he had cancer. And earlier this year, he passed. And so we have a lot of challenges in our circumstances, and really learning to appreciate the people that we have, the time that we have, the hours that we have. Um, and the things that we have. But when push comes to shove, everybody always knows that family is more important than things, and the people in our relationships are more important than things. And sometimes I think about my life. What I'd like to help other people learn is to learn this sooner. Now, I do say, and it's kind of a joke in my house, that I was old before I was young.
I
And,
think
and
that's true. I think that's very true. But I also think that's because you had to be in certain aspects of your life.
Right, right. And so, sometimes the challenges that we face, the struggles that I faced were useful. And there's a saying that says, what others intended for evil, God uses for good. And so certainly some of the circumstances I faced as a child served me very well in the capacities where I'm working with children, because I can be more empathetic, although I do not understand their exact circumstances. I've been through some similar circumstances.
Right.
And as we have loss, and unfortunately, wisdom is sometimes reserved for the old. But what if people could become wiser, younger, and they like the ideas you talk about taking care of your body? I read recently a quote from a novel, and it was something to the effect that every hour matters of your life. You just don't realize it until the hours are fewer.
Right.
And so if
Right.
we could take care of these hours now, and if we could learn lessons, that's been something I've been doing my whole life, is just trying to learn these little lessons, whether it's a snippet from a book. A lot of times you'll read a book, 500-page book. If you remember two things from that book,
Right. Two sentences, literally two sentences.
concepts, and I've always been about learning lessons, whether it's always, no matter how many alarm clocks you have, call for the wake-up call. Just simple things like that. Always call for the wake-up call. But also the bigger things about, how do you want to treat people? What are the words you want to say to people? I really do try to live my life so that if I never have another conversation with another person, that I am good with it. I do not go to bed with anger. That was really fun when the kids were little, because sometimes I'd have to wake them up. They're like, Dad, I'm asleep. I'm okay. I'm like, no, we got to settle this real quick. They're
Yeah,
like, no,
take
really, I'm
care, we're
asleep.
not angry. And they're like, but now I'm angry because you woke me up. No, I think that that's true. And I think that one of the problems with not being wise when we're young, I know this from personal experience, is that I just thought I was right. And, our egos are huge when we're young. They're
Right,
huge.
right.
And the older we get, I believe that we become so much more comfortable in the fact that we don't know everything. And we realize that other people do know a lot more than us on certain subjects, and we actually need to listen to them. And that was another reason why I wanted to have this YouTube channel, was so that we could open up conversations for people that maybe they haven't thought about before, or maybe they haven't thought about in that way before, and spark some conversation, and spark some dreams, and spark some reality that they need to take care of themselves, and they need to open up and have discussions. And anyway, I think it's really a great idea to spread, especially right now. Well, it's important all the time, and I just think it's going to be more so the farther we get down the road. But I would like to come back to that, feeling blessed in what you have.
Hmm.
Uh, we did talk before we hit the record button about, my theory is that we need to have that feeling, which sometimes is really hard, because your thoughts are going, I didn't achieve that goal, I'm not good enough, I screwed up, how did I miss that? Or that person makes me angry, or that person has made me mad, that person has offended me. But no, they just did their thing. It's all right here as to what happened to it. You know, you can blow off stuff, and not even hear it. Like, I don't listen to the news. I don't watch the news. I don't turn on the news, but I seek out the news to find out information when I need to know what's going on. But I don't have those voices in my head telling me what to think and hear. So it's really easy for me to just block stuff out that would offend me, possibly, if I let it get to me. So what are your thoughts about that? We have about 4 more minutes or so.
Well, one of the things I think is important is learning how to take care of yourself and actually learning to listen. And I learned lessons from a lot of people. There's a guy that is commonly called Gary V, I think he is. He's a Ukrainian. He's a billionaire type of guy. And I've listened to him before, and he's a lot about how to do things, how to accomplish the really big goals. Sometimes I think, and in fact, you actually taught me this, your term that you taught me years ago, and that's learning lessons from people is one simple change, right? Which kind of fits with another thing that I believe for a long time, which is just a slight improvement, 2% more effort, the slight edge. It does not cost people very much to be kind to others. One of the applications we can make is try to be kind to yourself. You know, what can you do to take care of yourself? And as I'm getting older, I heard this guy, his name is Buffini. He's a real estate agent. And he talked about this dog race that they have in Alaska. And the lesson, the takeaway from it was that if you run the dogs ragged, they literally die. But if you rest the dogs and you let them eat and consume and rest in the right cycle, the work rest cycle, they overperform. So it's a really interesting idea that we need to work, but we also need to rest. And actually, I'm pretty late in life realizing that I need to rest more. I've always been a grinder.
You and me both.
That's right. That's right. And, you know, part of that is the way that I grew up. And there's this rapper, I get to listen to all the cool music from the kids, you know, his name is Lecrae, and he has this song and it says, being broke made me rich, you know? And so being broken can make us healthier. It doesn't make everybody healthier. You do not become, time does not heal all wounds. You do not become healthier just because of the ebb of time. You literally have to do things. A broken bone has to be set, and then it has to heal. And so whether it's our hearts or our bodies, we have to take care of ourselves. And as we do that, then we will become better vessels and better instruments of helping to take care of others. And so that has been very important to me as a practitioner, as a person helping kids. The closest estimate I could give a person who's not at my hospital, a reference would be kind of a Patch Adams type of approach. I mean, you know, I joke with the kids all the time, and you have to find this right balance, because when a person is depressed and they were suicidal yesterday, you have to figure out how to manage your energy, but to pull them out of the darkness, you actually have to be the light. And you have to bring them to you. You have to invite them into you and hope that they invite you into their lives.
Right. You know, that is so true. And I heard someone say, and I'm not going to get this right, but you can never be sad enough to make someone else happy. You can never be poor enough to make someone else rich. Mm-hmm. And so I think that, you know, that's real. That's real, because I know from experience that people have said when they have come into like one of my classes for Zumba, they might be having the worst day. Sure. But they don't come in there expecting me to stop what I'm doing and get sad with them or get upset and get angry with them. They come in and they expect me to bring light and joy and dance and music and energy and, you know, bring them up. And so if we could think about that in every part of our lives, which is really hard sometimes, it's really hard, because when you're feeling down and sad or upset, you want sympathy. You want people to feel it with you. You want to have this, let's have a conference about how sad it is. But really what you need is someone to say, let's look at something good. Let's feel something we can feel blessed about. And then you start getting into a different mode. So I think that's important. All right. So as the last word, I'm going to let you have it here. What would you like to share with anybody who happens to see this? The one person that might be watching this video right now, what would you like to say to that person?
I want to say thank you for hosting me today. This has actually been very helpful to me, because you're asking questions and asking me to do this. helps me kind of get my concepts together. And we both know that both of us have had to dance our way out of the darkness. You're a better dancer, but I keep trying.
Just different styles, different
It's different
styles.
styles. Mine kind of looks like perhaps a seizure, but it'll be okay.
It's the Elaine Bennis Seinfeld dance.
But that joyfulness that I know you share on the daily basis is also informed by life. And I think that's what I would say to people that might be listening is it's an effort, but sometimes it's one slight change, whether it's hydration, which was my one simple change. Sometimes I make a commitment to one thing a year, and hydration was 6 years ago, but I've made that a habit, and that's what I've done. And so this idea of seeking joy, of seeing the things that you have and finding happiness in those things, of setting a goal. When you set a goal and you miss the bullseye, you may still hit the inner bull. That's the part around the bullseye. But if you don't
Right.
set the goal, Lord knows what you'll be shooting at,
Right.
So
Shoot for the stars, you might end up on the moon. So
there
that's,
you go.
you're still out there. All
But
right.
thank
Thank
you
you
for
so
having
much.
me, and I appreciate the time and the chat. So it's been helpful to me, and I appreciate that. That's a part of our relationships that matter.
Well, thank you so much, Keith. And, I value your friendship, and I know that I always will, because you guys will always be part of my life. So thank you for sharing today.
Thank you.